The late autumn wind whistled through the skeletal branches of maple trees surrounding the Victorian-style house in rural Massachusetts. Ethan Matthews stood on the wraparound porch, watching his girlfriend Olivia's car disappear down the winding driveway. The setting sun cast long shadows across the frost-kissed lawn, and a sense of peaceful solitude settled over him like a comfortable blanket. At 32, Ethan had inherited this family home from his grandmother just 6 months ago. The house, with its weathered wooden siding and green shutters, held countless memories of childhood summers spent exploring its many rooms and hidden corners. Now working as a wildlife photographer for National Geographic, he treasured these occasional weekends alone when he could decompress between assignments and work on editing his latest photos. "Don't forget to check the attic," Olivia had reminded him before leaving for her conference in Seattle. "I heard some strange noises up there last weekend." She'd been helping him renovate parts of the house, transforming it from a relic of the past into their future home together. "It's probably just squirrels," Ethan had assured her with a smile, kissing her goodbye. "This place has been here since 1890. Old houses make all sorts of sounds." That first night alone passed uneventfully. Ethan spent the evening in his grandfather's old study, reviewing photographs from his recent assignment in Yellowstone. The familiar scent of leather-bound books and aged wood surrounded him as he worked, occasionally sipping from a mug of chamomile tea. Outside, an early November storm gathered strength, pelting the windows with sleet. It wasn't until well past midnight that he first heard it, a distinct scratching sound from somewhere above, followed by what seemed like careful footsteps. Ethan lowered his headphones and listened intently. The noise came again, more pronounced this time, definitely from the direction of the attic. "Just the wind," he muttered to himself, though something about the deliberate nature of the sound made the hair on the back of his neck stand up. Still, exhaustion won out over curiosity, and he decided to investigate in the morning. The following day dawned gray and cold. Ethan went about his usual routine, trying to ignore the occasional thuds and scrapes from upstairs. Around mid-morning, while brewing coffee in the kitchen, he decided to send Olivia a quick photo, knowing she'd be worried about him staying alone in the old house. Holding up his phone, he snapped a casual selfie in front of the kitchen island. The morning light streaming through the window caught his disheveled dark hair and 3-day stubble, and he could see the vintage brass bed frame from the guest room reflected in the window behind him. He sent the picture with a quick message, "Missing you. House is fine. No ghost stories to report." Olivia's response came almost immediately. "Ethan, look at the picture again. Zoom in on the reflection in the window." Frowning, Ethan opened the photo and pinched to zoom. At first, he saw nothing unusual, but then his blood ran cold. There, clearly visible in the reflection, was what appeared to be several tufts of tawny fur protruding from beneath the guest room bed. "It's probably just shadows," he typed back, trying to convince himself as much as her. "Or maybe some old stuffed animals from when my cousins used to stay here." "Take another picture right now," Olivia demanded. "I'm serious, Ethan." Obligingly, he walked to the guest room and photographed the space under the bed. Nothing but dust bunnies and an old storage box were visible. He sent this photo to Olivia, along with a reassuring message, "See? Nothing to worry about." But doubt had taken root in his mind. As a wildlife photographer, he'd spent enough time tracking and photographing animals to recognize signs of their presence. The scratches he now noticed on the wooden floor weren't from moving furniture. The strange, musty smell in the hallway wasn't just old house odors. And those sounds, they were far too deliberate for squirrels. As evening approached, Ethan's unease grew. He found himself listening intently to every creak and groan of the house. The storm had picked up again, and branches scraped against the windows like skeletal fingers. Finally, unable to stand the uncertainty any longer, he grabbed a powerful flashlight from his camera bag and headed upstairs. The old wooden steps creaked beneath his feet as he climbed to the second floor. The temperature dropped noticeably as he approached the pull-down attic stairs. Taking a deep breath, he tugged the cord, and the stairs unfolded with a protesting groan. The beam of his flashlight cut through the darkness of the attic, illuminating decades of stored memories. Old trunks, boxes of Christmas decorations, his grandmother's collection of antique dolls. Everything seemed undisturbed, covered in a uniform layer of dust. But then he noticed it, a clear path through the dust, leading to a corner behind an old armoire. Ethan's heart thundered in his chest as he moved closer. The flashlight beam revealed scattered bits of paper and fabric, torn apart as if to make a nest. A half-eaten apple lay nearby, already turning brown. As he stepped forward for a better look, a sudden movement in his peripheral vision made him spin around. There, crouched behind a stack of boxes, was a wild bobcat. The creature was magnificent, even in its clearly desperate state. Its tawny fur was matted, its ribs visible beneath its coat, but its eyes gleamed with intelligence and fear. For a moment, they locked gazes, photographer and subject, human and wild thing, in a tableau of mutual surprise. Then chaos erupted. The bobcat launched itself from its hiding place, but instead of attacking, it darted past Ethan toward the attic stairs. In its panic, it knocked over a lamp, which shattered on the floor. Ethan's photographer's instincts took over, and he found himself mentally noting details even as his heart raced. Female, possibly 2 or 3 years old, severely undernourished but no visible injuries. As the sound of the bobcat's retreat faded, another noise caught his attention, a soft mewling coming from behind the armoire. With cautious steps, he approached the source of the sound. There, in a makeshift nest of shredded fabric and newspaper, lay 2 tiny bobcat cubs. The cubs couldn't have been more than a few weeks old, their eyes barely open. They were thin, their fur dull, but they were alive. The reality of the situation hit Ethan like a physical blow. This wasn't just a random wild animal seeking shelter. This was a desperate mother trying to protect her babies. His hands trembling slightly, Ethan pulled out his phone and called the only person he knew would understand the gravity of the situation. "Olivia," he said when she answered, "you need to hear this, and I need your help." Over the next hour, Ethan explained everything to Olivia, who immediately booked the next flight back from Seattle. As a veterinary specialist focusing on wildlife rehabilitation, she would know exactly what to do. In the meantime, she gave him detailed instructions on how to care for the cubs without getting too close or allowing them to imprint on humans. "The mother will come back for them," Olivia assured him. "She's probably watching the house right now. The important thing is to make sure they stay warm and don't get more dehydrated. I'll be there as soon as I can." Following Olivia's guidance, Ethan gathered supplies: clean towels, a heating pad set on low, and small dishes of water. He placed these near the cubs but didn't touch them, knowing their best chance of survival would be with their mother. Then he retreated to the first floor and waited. As predicted, the mother bobcat returned within hours. Ethan heard her stealthy movements above, followed by the soft sounds of her attending to her cubs. Instead of fear, he felt a profound sense of privilege at being allowed to share his space with these wild creatures. Olivia arrived early the next morning, her medical kit in hand and determination in her eyes. Together, they formulated a plan. Rather than trying to capture and relocate the family immediately, which could traumatize them further, they would provide food and minimal assistance while searching for the right wildlife sanctuary to take them. She chose this place because she was desperate, Olivia explained as they quietly observed the mother bobcat from a distance. The animal was cautiously eating the raw chicken they'd left out, her movements speaking of exhaustion and hunger. The early winter and urban development have pushed them out of their usual territory. "She's smart. She found shelter where she could." Over the next few days, Ethan and Olivia worked tirelessly to help the bobcat family while maintaining a respectful distance. They documented everything with Ethan's cameras, collecting valuable data about bobcat behavior in crisis situations. The mother gradually became less fearful, though she remained appropriately wild, never letting her guard down completely. They named her Aurora, after the morning light that had revealed her presence in that first photograph. Her cubs, both females, they called Dawn and Dusk. Through careful observation, they learned Aurora's patterns. She hunted at night, returning before sunrise to nurse her cubs. During the day, she stayed close to them in the attic, her presence betrayed only by occasional soft footfalls. The search for the right wildlife sanctuary proved challenging. Many facilities were already at capacity due to the harsh early winter. Others lacked the specific expertise needed for bobcat rehabilitation. Finally, Through Olivia's professional network, they found a suitable location: the Wild Heart Sanctuary in western Massachusetts, specializing in native carnivore rehabilitation. They have a soft release program, Olivia explained excitedly. The bobcats stay in a protected area until they're ready to return to the wild. They even have tracking programs to monitor their success rates. But before they could implement their relocation plan, nature intervened. A massive winter storm swept through the region, dumping 2 feet of snow and making travel impossible. Forced to wait, Ethan and Olivia continued their careful dance of coexistence with their wild house guests. During this time, something remarkable happened. Aurora began to show signs of not just tolerating their presence, but accepting it. She would watch from the stairs as they prepared food in the kitchen, her golden eyes alert but no longer frightened. Once, when Olivia was treating a minor eye infection in one of the cubs, Aurora stood nearby, tense but trusting enough to allow the intervention. "This goes against everything I was taught about wild animal behavior," Olivia admitted one evening as they watched Aurora groom her cubs through the carefully positioned wildlife camera they'd installed. "She's maintaining her wild instincts, but she's also showing an extraordinary level of adaptation." Ethan nodded, thinking about the countless hours he'd spent photographing wild animals. "Maybe we need to revise our understanding of wildlife intelligence," he suggested. "These animals are making complex decisions about survival, trust, and risk assessment. They're not just acting on instinct." The storm passed, leaving behind a transformed landscape of pristine white. The time had come to move the bobcat family to their new temporary home. Representatives from Wild Heart Sanctuary arrived with appropriate transport equipment and years of experience in handling wild animals. The actual transfer went more smoothly than anyone had dared hope. Aurora, perhaps sensing that these humans meant no harm, allowed herself and her cubs to be carefully moved into separate transport crates. The cubs, now noticeably healthier and more active, mewed in protest at the confinement but quickly settled down in the warm darkness. The drive to the sanctuary took just over 2 hours. Ethan and Olivia followed the transport vehicle, both lost in their own thoughts about the extraordinary experience they'd shared. The sanctuary itself was everything they'd hoped for: hundreds of acres of protected land, professional staff, and state-of-the-art facilities for rehabilitation. The release was scheduled for sunrise the next day, giving the bobcats time to acclimate to their new surroundings in the holding area. As the first rays of dawn painted the sky in shades of pink and gold, the sanctuary staff opened the crates in a specially designed enclosure. Aurora emerged first, her movements cautious but confident. She immediately checked her surroundings, nose twitching as she processed the sense of her new environment. The cubs tumbled out after her, their playful energy a testament to their recovery. Together, the family explored their spacious enclosure, complete with natural vegetation and hiding places. "They'll stay here for at least a month," the sanctuary director explained. "We'll monitor their progress and make sure the cubs are strong enough before opening the enclosure to the larger protected area. After that, they're free to come and go as they please, though we'll continue tracking them for research purposes." As they watched Aurora lead her cubs into a cozy den area, Ethan felt tears prick at his eyes. Olivia squeezed his hand, understanding the complex emotions of the moment. What had started as a frightening discovery had transformed into something beautiful, a reminder of the delicate balance between human development and wildlife preservation. The story of Aurora and her cubs didn't end with their release. Over the next year, Ethan and Olivia received regular updates from the sanctuary. The family thrived in their new environment, with the cubs growing into strong, healthy young bobcats. Aurora proved to be an excellent mother, teaching her daughters the hunting and survival skills they would need. Their experience inspired Ethan to start a new photography project focusing on urban wildlife adaptation. His photos of Aurora and her cubs, along with Olivia's detailed observations, were published in several scientific journals, contributing to the growing body of research on wildlife behavior in human-adjacent environments. The old house underwent its own transformation. Ethan and Olivia completed their renovation plans, but with some meaningful modifications. They created a wildlife-friendly landscape around the property, with native plants and protected corridors for animals to safely pass through. The attic where Aurora had sought refuge was preserved as a reminder of their extraordinary encounter, though they made sure to properly seal any potential entry points to prevent future wildlife emergencies. On cold winter nights, when the wind howls around the eaves of their home, Ethan and Olivia sometimes think about Aurora and her cubs. They imagine them moving silently through the forests of western Massachusetts, wild and free as they should be, yet forever connected to the humans who helped them when they needed it most. Their story spread throughout the local community and beyond, changing attitudes about wildlife conservation and coexistence. People began to see bobcats not as threats to be feared, but as intelligent, adaptable creatures deserving of respect and protection. Local conservation groups reported increased support for wildlife corridors and habitat preservation initiatives. 1 year after Aurora's departure, Ethan and Olivia received a special package from the Wild Heart Sanctuary, a series of trail camera photos showing Aurora and her now-grown cubs marking their territory near the sanctuary boundaries. The cubs had developed their mother's distinctive facial markings, and all 3 cats appeared healthy and strong. The final photo in the series showed Aurora looking directly at the camera, her golden eyes seeming to hold the same intelligent, knowing expression that Ethan remembered from their first encounter in the attic. It was a powerful reminder that sometimes the most meaningful connections come from unexpected places, and that compassion knows no boundaries between species. Ethan had the photo framed and hung it in his study, next to his own pictures documenting their time with the bobcat family. It served as a daily reminder of the extraordinary chapter in their lives when their home became a sanctuary for a desperate mother and her cubs, and how that experience had transformed not just their understanding of wildlife, but their perspective on the delicate balance between human spaces and the natural world. The legacy of their encounter continued to ripple outward. Olivia developed new protocols for handling urban wildlife emergencies, which were adopted by veterinary clinics across the state. Ethan's photographs became part of a traveling exhibition titled Wild Neighbors, promoting understanding and cooperation between human communities and local wildlife. And sometimes, on particularly quiet nights, they swear they can still hear the echo of soft footfalls in the attic. Not from any present wildlife, but from the memory of those remarkable weeks when their home sheltered 3 wild hearts, and their own hearts were forever changed by the experience. The end of Aurora's story became a beginning for countless others, a testament to the power of compassion, the importance of conservation, and the extraordinary moments of connection that can occur when we open our hearts to the unexpected visitors who cross our paths.